The challenge: make a GR Corolla fitment guide without including TE37s. Not easy, considering about half these cars are running TEs, but we're up to the challenge.
Challenge accepted.
Nothing against those wheels, they're great. In fact, we sell TEs in basically every size and style and variation they make a lot. However, for this guide, we wanted to show you some other possibilities, of which there are many. These cars look great on dished wheels, concave, 5-spoke, mesh, just about anything you can think of. This guide is specifically for the 23 plus GR Corolla. Of course, if you already know what wheels you want, but you don't know the diameter, width, offset, well, that's what we are here to show you. The best wheels and the best specs for the GRC platform. So, as always, let's start with the basics. 5x114 bolt pattern, M12 by 1.5 lug nut thread, 60.1 center bore, and 80 feet-pounds of lug torque. There are a few quirks of this platform that you need to know about before you order or install aftermarket wheels. If you have been researching, you've probably seen these. But just in case, we're going to touch on them real quick, as they are vital to fitment and, well, frankly, your well-being. So right off the rip, these cars come with a 10mm slip-on spacer in the rear. Some owners hate this fact, but Toyota considers it a feature, not a bug. Might be the first car to come with factory spacers, actually. Now, typically these cars do run square fitment, but it is also possible to run a staggered setup. One prospect is to get 10mm lower offset rears, plus or minus a few mils, which allows you to remove the spacer and still get that same fitment, which is probably what Toyota should have done, but they want you to rotate tires because they're an OEM, right? For this guide, pay close attention to effective offset, as that's the final number, including spacers. If one of the vehicles we show is not running the spacer or has different spacers, we will make it super clear. As always, these guides are also written up on our website. You can click the link down below to see it. Now, another strange thing about this platform is how oddly short the factory lug studs are. Aftermarket wheels do require conical seat lug nuts. The problem is that your lug nuts will not get proper thread engagement on many aftermarket wheels. For a car like the Corolla that uses an M12 lug stud, the rule of thumb is that you'd need 12mm of thread engagement, or about ½ an inch. We would recommend even more to err on the side of caution because you don't want your lugs backing out, right? For reference, the stock studs measure in at 28mm in the front, 35 in the rear. If you get wheels and you find they don't have enough engagement, the good news is this platform has an enormous amount of aftermarket support. There's a couple options. Obviously, H&R makes studs in a variety of sizes. The finish looks like stock. It's perfect if you just want an OEM look, but with enough threads that your wheels will not fly off on the freeway. All of these are listed on our guide, also in the description down below. We have them all on our website. I'm not going to bore you with thread lengths and part numbers, but they are in the script, so I know that you can find them on our website. Now, if you see yourself adding additional spacers, ARP is pretty much the gold standard here and will give you the most freedom. Proper thread engagement is something that is checked during a tech inspection on track, so for those of you who are going to be hitting a road course, these extended studs make it super easy for the inspector to just check that box, green light you, and you're out on track. ARP is probably slightly stronger than H&R. I don't know. I don't want to get sued by either company. ARP is kind of the gold standard here. Your mileage may vary. If you didn't know, we sell wheels and tires, but everything you might need to make them fit up on your car: lug studs, nuts, spacers, hub-centric rings, little mini wheels, all that stuff, right? Any wheel accessories you are looking for, click the link down below, our website, threepiece.us.
Okay.
So now, you're probably like, hey, you've talked a lot about a whole bunch of other stuff. What actually fits? Well, let's look at some specific examples of fitment for different use cases. Haha, but first, you thought, here are some general guidelines on the wheel specs. Stock wheels come in at an 18-inch diameter, which also happens to be the most popular, most common size for aftermarket. The factory did it right on this one. If you're looking to downsize, maybe for a winter setup or for taller tires, 17s are the smallest you can run while clearing the brakes. That said, the list of 17s that actually clear is very short. We have this, again, listed down below. Surprisingly, the width and offset of the factory wheels is not half bad. Some owners actually reuse the factory specs 18.5 plus 30, just with a different style of wheel. However, If you are after a more aggressive fitment, you can size these up or down a bit with a 9 or 9.5 and a lower offset. As far as tires go, the factory 235/40/18 or 245/40/18 are decent, but you can very easily upgrade to a 255 or 265, and we will show you how in the next section. So we're starting off with the really easy, mild, daily driver stuff. You just want to bolt wheels on and go. These are probably what you are going to need. This first GR is on 1552 TURBOMAC 18.5 plus 30, plus that 10mm spacer in the rear, so effective plus 20 in the rear. Running a square 245/40/18 tire. This is just your bread and butter easy fitment. This one is lowered on iBox as well. This is a super clean and simple setup, and believe it or not, the wheels on this one are exactly the same as stock, and no additional spacers were used, just the factory ones in the rear. As we can see from the pictures that are somewhere on the screen right now, this is not sunken battleship by any means, so well done, Toyota. Where we do see a difference is the tires being sized up from 235 to 245. Nothing dramatic, but it is worth noting, and 245 offers you more grip. This car is also lowered on iBox springs. They also make a lift kit if you're about the rally life, but you know, it's like a $60,000 car. I don't know. Needless to say, the fenders can be left as is. No rolling, no pulling, no nothing like that. There are no suspension clearance issues and no rubbing to be seen. Consider this as simply a way to spice up the looks of your GR without doing anything else. You can go on our website, you can click iBox springs, 18.5 30, 245/40 tires, put it all in your cart, show up on your doorstep. The only thing we won't do is put it on your car, and you just bolt them up and go. It's literally, you can stop watching the video right there, but don't stop watching. That's the easy setup. Next up, we got some VOLK Racing 21As, 18.5 plus 20, and then that same in the rear, but with the 10mm spacer, so effective plus 10. Pilot's Fort 4S's, 235/40/18 tires all around. This one is at factory ride height. You can go as wide as 18 by 9.5 before having to worry about rolling your fenders, and this 2024 Corolla is showing us that on these 18 9.5 plus 20 at stock height with no rubbing issues whatsoever. The original tires were retained, but you could probably go up to a 245 or 255 without issue. If you're thinking 265/35, that is when you have to consider rolling those fenders, although it is a common fitment on this platform, so don't let that dissuade you. Now we got some 17s. KONIG HYPERGRAM 17 by 9 plus 25, then again that 10mm spacer, effective plus 15. Michelin Cross Climate 2s in 245/40/18 all the way around. This one is again lowered on a set of iBox. This time it's the Pro Kit lowering springs. This one is running DynaFit 12 by 1.5 extended lug nuts. And yes, if you couldn't tell, 17s can work on a GR Corolla, but it's a tight fit. There's a short list of ones that actually clear the brake calipers, and these HYPERGRAMs are one such model that works. Generally, you can think about if the wheel's like more race focused, it'll probably clear. With more aggressive specs, the fitment in this GR is more flush than the last. Plus, this one is running 245/40 tires, which is still a factory size. This one is lowered on iBox Pro Kit springs as well. Now, besides these 17s, we found a few more that work. This is not an exhaustive list, but if it's on here, it pretty much guaranteed clears. Wedsport SA72R 17.9.5 plus 32, Sparco FF1 17.8.5 plus 30, Apex SM10RS, ENKEI PF09, KONIG Neoform, KONIG Heliogram, KONIG Countergram, KONIG Decagram. Guys, the list is down below. Just scroll down and read it. If you got other 17s in mind, you definitely need to do your own research before ordering. However, I will tell you cheat code. If it's got a lip, it's probably not going to clear. If it's 3-piece, it's probably not going to clear. You kind of need a race-focused wheel. Think TEs, Wedsports, etc. Now, let's get to the aggressive stuff. This is still fully functional, but it's more aggressive. You are going to have to roll your fenders, pull your fenders, modify your vehicle, run smaller tires, all that standard jazz you have to do with a more aggressive fitment. These are not a direct bolt-on setup, so do not call us and be like, yo, why don't they fit if you buy these? Because, you know, there you go. ENKEI TSV 18.9.5 plus 38, and then that 10mm space in the rear, effective plus 28. Bridgestone RE71RS 265/35/18 tires. Couple notes on this one. We do consider this aggressive, not because the wheel size, but because of the tire size. It's a fairly tame wheel setup, but with this tire size, it does become aggressive. You probably want a 9.5 wide wheel to run this tire. Because the offset's high, this car does not have any poke if you're looking for maximum contact patch, but don't want to go crazy with stance setup, this is good for you. Some people on the internet claim zero rubbing issues on a 265 with no fender work. Other people say it rubs. Might be possible at stock height, but anytime you're running like a 3 size wider tire than stock, you should just roll your fenders for added assurance, especially if you're tracking the car. One of the things people don't consider, you're turning, you hit a bump, your wheel goes into your fender, your expensive GR fender is ruined, and it could have been saved with an $80 fender roller. So again, your decision. I'd roll my fenders. Next up, ADVAN RGIIIs 18x10 plus 35. These are wrapped up in Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's 265/35 18s. This one is on stock suspension. Now, rather than a 9 or 9.5, the owner of this GR picked a 10-inch wide wheel. Smaller sizes might be preferable just because of the weight differential, and you can still get a 265 on a narrower wheel like a 9.5 while saving a bit of weight. Are you really going to feel a difference? Well, unless you're Mario Andretti, probably not. This car is also on stock suspension, but you are going to plan on rolling your fenders a little bit if you go with a 10-inch wide wheel. Again, the more aggressive your wheel and tire setup, the more modification you need to do on your vehicle. I feel like that's just very straightforward, especially if you've watched our videos and all before. We always tell you, you're going to go crazier, just be ready to modify your car. Next up, new setup, 57 CRs from Gramlight. H9.5/38 with that 10 mil in the rear for effective 28, 265/35 18 tires. This one is lowered on BC Racing coilovers, and there are no rubbing issues. This one does have -0.5 degree of camber in front and -2 in the rear. Obviously, white on white TEs are a good look, but if you want to spend $4,000, don't sleep on the 57 CRs from RZII. TEs are lighter, but this is an excellent track setup. Take note of the specs here, 18.9.5/38 all around, with that 265/35 18 tire. This one's on some BC Racing coilovers. Eyebox springs will get you pretty low, but if you want the best performance, best handling, and best looks, you should be looking into coilovers, and at like $300 for springs and $1,000 for coilovers, there you go. BCs are awesome mid-range coils that feel great on street or track. If you want something more entry-level, it's a $60,000 car. Don't. If you want something better, go get KWs or Owens. BCs are probably roughly on par with stock suspension, in my opinion, especially on a performance platform like this. Next up, DVS REV7s, 18.9.5 plus 22, and then a 5 mil in the rear for plus 17 offset. Continental Extreme Contact 265/40 18 tires all the way around on this one. That taller sidewall on that 40 profile. No fender work, extended OEM studs up front. Swapped out the rear for a 5 mil hub-centric spacer. This one is lowered on Fortune Auto 510 coilovers, no rubbing. This one is running some pretty aggressive fitment if you are after performance. This is kind of the outer edge of what you can do on like a stock body car. Anything past this, you probably need to wide body it. Again, someone's going to tell us 275s. We're going to tell you we sell wheels. We don't want you to return them. 18.9.5s with a lower 22 offset, making for a more aggressive stance. Note that 10 mil OE spacer was swapped out for a 5 mil. If you want to copy this, you have to roll your fenders. However, the owner claims that there is no rubbing at this height. Your definition of no rubbing, his definition of no rubbing could be different. This car is on Fortune Auto 510s. No, this is not a cheap build. This has nice parts if you wanted to do it on a budget. You could copy the specs, but with like some cast wheels, do like some odd-ons or something like that instead of the BBSs and do some lowering springs. So now we're doing some sacrilege. Form over function for the stancy boys. Yes, you can stance a GR Corolla. No, I don't know why you would. Just go get a base model. But some people have. We're here to tell you about it because, heck, you might want to do it, and we're not here to judge. This one is on ADVAN RZIIs, 19.8.5 plus 37, effective 17, 19.9.5 plus 45, effective 30. Jake, that's not an aggressive fitment. Well, check this out. 235/35 19 tires all the way around. This one is lowered on the springs, 20mm front hub-centric spacers, and 15mm rear hub-centric spacers, replacing those factory 10s. They're not stacked. This is a look at 19s on a GR Corolla. This also happens to be a staggered setup. The wheel specs do not look that intimidating on paper, but take into account the massive spacers, 20mm and 15mm, 1 inch is 25mm for reference for you. To make this clear, especially in the front, you had to stretch the tires. This one is lowered on Eibach lowering springs. Note that there is a bit of rubbing at full lock or when the suspension fully articulates. This is a more mild stance setup, but 19s, big wheels, big tires, it's stamps on paper. It's less functional than like a, functional setup that we showed you previously. Kind of just goes to show you what 19s look like on this platform. Next up, getting into the real stance stuff, ENKEI RPF1 RSs, 18.10.5 plus 10 all around. Wrapped up in Ironman, iMove 225/40 18 tires. Little bit of rubbing with sharp turns when the suspension is fully compressed. This one is on BC Racing coilovers, 6.5K front spring, 7.5K rear springs, 4.2 degrees of camber in the front, 3.2 in the rear. If you want a really aggressive stance, maybe even with a little bit of poke, check out this setup. This one's on 18.10.5 plus 10 all around. 10.5s on a Corolla is pretty ridiculous, but if possible, The fenders will need to be rolled and possibly pulled to make it happen. This one is lowered on BC Racing coilovers. Spring rates are that 6.5K front, 7.5K rear, as I mentioned. Admittedly, this is not functional. This car has -4 degrees of camber all around. Plus, there is rubbing when the suspension articulates. Plus, they are running stretched, non-performance tires on a 10.5-inch wide wheel. None of it's for the faint of heart. If you want stance, if you want those likes on the gram, if you want to run up them TikTok numbers, this is what you got to do. Car looks super sick. Not what I do, but if you're into stance, it's pretty cool. This platform can take a massive range of wheel specs. If you want, you can use the factory specs all over again with a wider tire, and guess what? It looks good. Or you can go 18 10.5s with some stretched tires. You can cut your fenders and put some flares on and whatever you want to do, but again, it's a new car. The best fitment, though, somewhere in the middle. This will give you the best looks and performance. It's kind of like a Subaru 18, 9 or 9.5, offset around 30 to 38, 265, 255, 35 tires. You are in business. You probably need to roll your fenders depending on your suspension, but it's well worth it. Now, if you have a GR Corolla, which I assume you do if you're watching this video, show it off in our vehicle gallery, even if it's on TE37s. Click the link down below to upload your Corolla. Let us know in the comments down below what vehicle we should do a guide on next. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Oh yeah, we have a camera from this century now. I was recording these on my 60 that was literally probably older than most of you watching. So, better quality videos, better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.